Sometimes life goes a little off course. That's why you need a podcast host that can go a little off topic. This is the podcast that will give you straight talk about everything life throws at you. Welcome to another episode of Off Topic with Tom Powell. And here he is. This is Tom Powell.
I'm doing good, man. How are you doing?
Good. I just got through playing golf. Life is rough.
I'm telling you, man, I've been watching your videos. Life seems pretty damn rough for you, man.
No, after 40 years on the same job, I think it's time to relax,
After how many years?
40.
40 years.
40 years.
That is a long...
Since I was 20 years old, I got on the waterfront.
Wait a minute. You're 68?
No, I'm 60 now.
Oh, okay. Dude, you don't look it. You don't look it one bit.
Yeah, right.
No, seriously, man. I mean, I look like I'm 15 years older than I am. You do not look like you're 60. I wanted to say congratulations on the retirement right off the bat because I saw, here recently that you were able to hang them up.
Yeah, so in our union contract, they had it this year where we could leave at 59 and a half. So I took advantage of that.
Took advantage of that. So you get full pension, everything at 59 and a half.
If you have 37 good years behind your belt.
Oh, good.
Yeah, so I had that and then some.
But listen, I watch your content all the time, and while I want to congratulate you on the retirement, I think you're doing it wrong, brother. When you retire, you're not supposed to go to work landscaping, my guy.
Oh, who are you telling? No, these that's a rental property that I'm just upkeeping.
Gotcha. I was out there watching you bust your ass. I'm like, God damn, man, this guy's jumped into a whole new career.
No. No, I want to enjoy life now. I'm up in Oregon as we speak, actually.
Oh, right on.
Yeah, I just got through playing. I'm in Oregon. This is my house in Oregon. I'm going to redo all this landscaping pretty soon. So I stay busy. I don't like sitting around. I'm not one for sitting around.
Right. No, it doesn't seem like it. You're always moving.
I'm always doing something.
So was your technical job, was it called crane operator, longshoreman? What was that?
The right terminology is a longshoreman, but we do different category jobs such as operate cranes. I like to tell people we could clean toilets all the way to push computer keyboards and operating the biggest machinery in the world.
Okay, a little bit of everything.
There's
different categories.
There's a shit
ton of training that goes into that, right?
There's no training. It's old school training on the job, if you will.
Yeah, you got to learn by putting your hands on and doing it.
Hands on by the old timers.
Yeah. That's how I learned landscaping, right? No, I didn't go to school. I didn't sit down and study, how to do this. And they put a shovel in my hands and they said, "You got boots on. You can see lightning and hear thunder. Get your ass out in the field. We're going to teach you how to do this."
Exactly. Hands on, old school. None of this open a book up and learn. No one's going to teach you. You can't teach what's the word I want to use? A dog new tricks. It's just got to come naturally.
Yeah. Well, I mean, from the content that I watch, you seem to do it very well.
Yeah, I did pretty good. Don't get me wrong. There are people that don't do good, whether it be due to drugs, illicit activity. We ain't going to say, but I chose not to go down those paths and I did good, brother.
So you're talking about sometimes it doesn't go well. Let's talk about that. Obviously, that's a very dangerous work environment. You're handling tonnage in the air. You've got now I follow another longshoreman who works in a fully automated port. So there's really nobody ever underneath him. But have you ever seen anything really bad as far as a workplace accident?
Oh, I've seen plenty. You name it, I've seen it all. From Chinese immigrants coming in a walled container, if you will.
Really?
As soon as it hit the dock, U.S. Customs were already there. more than likely someone ratted them out and they're expecting that container to hit the dock. Once I had it on the hook, they said, hey, set that aside. Don't touch it after this, and clear the crane. And sure enough, I set it to the ground. Maybe 20 minutes later, maybe sooner than that, they thought it was calm to get out of the container, these foreign nationals, and they exited, and they were being watched by the U.S. Customs, and the rest is history.
Wow, that is some. And yeah, that was a can you unloaded.
That was I unloaded that particular can.
Man, that is crazy to think that was something that you had in your hands. You know,
I had that. Well, I had it on the beam of my crane. Yes,
man. Now, when people hear this podcast, and I don't know if you've ever heard this podcast that I do, but I do this. You know, I do all that political stuff, but I started this so that I could talk to people I find interesting about things that I find interesting.
Yeah.
Outside of podcasts. And you and I chew on sort of some of the same dirt because we're in different stages of the supply chain. And that's something that I wanted to kind of touch on a little bit, is that whole supply chain thing that you see me talking about in videos that people don't seem to understand. And people get to railing away about foreign this and foreign that, but what they don't understand is what people like yourself do, or in your case did every day, was handle all of the shit we love to buy for dirt cheap.
Yeah, literally dirt cheap.
Yeah, people don't understand what's in those cans when they're coming over. They just know that they like to go to Walmart and grab one of these T-shirts for as cheap as humanly possible. They like to think that there's an American over here making it, but in actuality, it's coming in on one of those vessels and you're unloading it and I'm taking it to a warehouse.
And little do they know, it costs little to nothing to make that. And then the bump up of the cost to get it on the shelf and for us to purchase it is another monster in itself.
Yeah. So what's a can going for? I know that pre-COVID, they were going for like 4,000 or 5,000 a can in and out of the country. And then they bumped up to 20,000, 25,000 a can at the height of the COVID when everybody was ordering shit.
I think it went up to at least 30, close to 40 from what I heard. Man. And who's making that money? The steamship lines, the carriers.
Yep.
You know, it's not Joe Blue that's bringing in, I don't know, 30 units of containers that has millions of T-shirts in it, or golf clubs or golf balls for that matter. It's not them making the money. It's the steamship line. It's the carriers that are making the money.
Yeah, because they're charging the manufacturer to get that product into the country, and then conversely, we take those containers once they're empty. We take them when we get them loaded up with grain, with soybeans, with corn, with dried distillers grain, and we send them right back to you guys to put them back on those vessels. And there goes another few thousand to send it back the other way.
Correct. That's not, Tom. That's not counting. Let's say the chassis that these containers had to go on in the height of the pandemic, when they said, oh, the longshoremen are playing games because their union contract is up. That is not true. They chose not to pay union labor, which they had done for years. They didn't want to choose union labor, and they chose to take those chassis. We'll call them trailers. A lot of people don't know what chassis are. We'll call them trailers that those containers go on. And they chose to send that off dock and not have longshore pay union wages, pay it off dock to non-union companies. And that in return came back and bit them in the ass.
And talk about that. Talk about that, because people don't understand that no matter what it is you're talking about, that you see in any store, in any town, in any state in this country, if you guys walk off the job for 3 days, the ripple effect that has on everything we buy, everything we touch.
So the ripple effect would be that people don't know the consequences. Do we need longshoremen? Absolutely. It's never going to stop the flow of cargo coming in and out of this country. Are we overpaid dock workers? Some people say we are, but I would say we're underpaid for the millions of dollars that these U.S. that these foreign companies are making off our backs. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yep.
And
So
when
when they
so when
stop,
the people
I'm sorry.
listening, when the people listening to this podcast, they're so familiar with things that hit the news, like when the railroads are going to go on strike and the effect that the railroads have. But what they don't understand is it all starts at our ports. It all starts in the Gulf of Mexico, along the East Coast, and where you're at on the West Coast. Because if we can't get the cans in, we can't get the products in. It doesn't matter if the railroad workers are running or not. It doesn't matter if my trucks are running or not. We're not getting the product in. And if we don't get the product in, we don't have the cans to send our exports back out in. Everything shuts down if these guys walk. And when these
Correct.
guys were
and
told,
it takes, let's say long.
these guys during COVID were told to keep their distance. And if they even thought that they were in the vicinity of somebody with COVID, correct me if I'm wrong, you guys had to go sit down for like 14 days, right?
Yes, sir. That's right.
And what did that do to us?
That didn't help the economy, and they thought it would.
Right?
Yeah.
That's how vital you guys are.
Well, it's not only us, Tom. It's you. It's the consumer, for one. Without them buying anything, I wouldn't have a job. You wouldn't have a job. It's as simple as that. But the consumer doesn't know how hard it takes, or let's just say, what's a better word for that? The job it takes to get that cargo to the shelf, whether it be me, crane operating, to put it on a truck, to get it to the warehouse, to get it to the stores. And first of all, from the dock to the truck, to the warehouses. Without you, without me, I don't want to say this society doesn't have a clue. We would be up a shit's creek without a paddle.
Yeah, supply chain comes to a screeching halt. Nobody can get anything. Now, what's the longest shutdown you've ever been part of?
I want to say it was 10 days, and it was due to a union contract. They locked us out. The longshore on the West Coast did not go on strike. The company, what they call lockout, in a sense, said, we are not going to give you guys jobs for the next 10 days until you guys settle this contract. In a sense, they just basically shoved it down our throat and says, hey, you want to work? Settle this contract. I want you to work. That's what it boiled down
to. See, I live in a very heavy union area, right? Chicago has been known as a very heavy union town for the longest time. And in the city proper, they still hold on to that union principle very, very strongly. But the further you get out here in the suburbs, we had something about 15, 20 years ago. Well, I don't know if it maybe 50 during the height of the housing bubble, right before the 2008 crash. So I might have my numbers, my number of years off there. But one of the biggest carpenter companies out here that was doing framing for all of the home builders in the far southwest and west suburbs, overnight went out of business and opened up the next morning under a new name, non-union, told all their people, you want jobs? You work for this company now. Because the biggest home builders in the nation turned to the contractors and said, we're done paying union wages. You go, I'm going to get me a non-union carpenter unless you want to form a new company that's non-union and lower your prices tonight. And the ripple effect that had on the unions here was absolutely next level. People, in the trades, the union goes from the hierarchy of the carpenter all the way down to us landscapers. And then when the landscapers got hit, it was like, fuck you. We didn't stand a chance. We were losing money left and right.
So people don't understand. They could do that in the drop of a dime. Why? Because it's cheaper, for one. Like you said, we'll close today. We'll open back up non-union tomorrow.
Well, and see, that's the other thing that people also don't understand is that while your job might be able to be automated, it can never be outsourced. It's one of those jobs that you can't send it to another country. Somebody in this country has to be here putting those cans on and off. And for you guys who don't understand what we're talking about when we say cans, it's those lovely containers that you see your semis pulling in your neighborhood, or you see the trains having on their cars. that come into this country with everything we buy and go back out to places like Southeast Asia with agricultural commodities. We call them cans. You might know them. You might see MSC on the side. You might see ONE on the side. We do a lot
Correct.
of those different.
A lot of the country know them as Connex containers, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah. Around here, farmers buy the old beat up ones to store grain and shit in.
Exactly. Yeah, you might see an old high-end container out there, and a farmer has his old equipment, or sometimes even wherever they're storing there. But you call them Connex containers or rail containers. It all depends what part of the coast you're on.
So, based on your normal level when you were working, based on your normal level of incoming vessels and incoming cans, how much of a spike did you guys see once we got into COVID and everybody switched the way they were spending and started having shit shipped to their house in massive numbers?
So we didn't see a spike in containers. We saw a spike in no containers because there was no work, in a sense. We saw the vessels backing up because they try to say, due to the lack of chassis or trailers, they try to blame that on longshoremen for not wanting to work, and that in case was not the fact. We were there ready and willing and able to do the job at a heartbeat. We didn't want the country to stop.
So, but as you came out of COVID and demand the country sort of came back to normal and we started seeing inflationary prices, did you see a bump in a surplus higher than your normal average?
Oh, absolutely. Because the quote unquote, these ships are still at anchor. Because why? Because there was lack of chassis. Once again, lack of chassis, lack of the equipment being on the dock, able for us to put the container on a trailer and to you guys, aka truckers, or whoever's hauling these containers to the warehouses. So there was a fluctuation above and beyond we could handle, not because we didn't have the manning, due to the steamships lines not giving us the work.
So on an average day, like an average shift, a guy like you, how many cans you unload in a day?
On an average day, on a good day and the equipment was good, I could do 40 plus containers an hour.
Okay. And explain to people how many of those cans are on each one of those vessels.
Oh, it depends on some of the biggest vessels that I had unloaded in my career. You could look it up. You could Google it. Let's just say the Hyundai China. Okay, it's a vessel probably. It probably carries 5,000 plus containers. So don't get that confused. They measure these for whatever reason in TEUs in 20-foot increments. So 5,000 could turn into, 2,800 total on the ship. If they were all in 20-foot increments, then it would carry the 5,000 as it says, but they measure them in TEUs.
So 40 an hour. See, when I see the videos of you guys unloading those, 40 an hour to me seems like you're hauling ass.
Okay, let me correct that. That's an old school non-automation 40 an hour. Okay. When these companies want to choose to go automated and only have very few limited operations going and operators or longshoremen on the dock itself, now you're talking, it's an automation. I like to compare it to today's society as far as 5G. We all know what 5G is, right?
Yeah.
I like to compare it to the dial-up. We all remember the dial-up, the old folks on here.
Yeah.
So if you go dial-up at an automation terminal and the system cannot keep up, what's it going to do? It's going to crash.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And hence why we were only doing sometimes 10 an hour, 15 an hour. We have to wait for the automation, quote unquote, to keep up or not overheat in a sense, because it's a dial-up network, if that makes sense.
Yeah, because the other gentleman that I follow, they have automated, they have GPS-driven cabs bringing chassis all over the place for the crane operators to drop the cans onto. And I understand exactly what you're saying. Chassis are a pain in my ass. If I hear my drivers tell me they can't get fucking chassis one more time, I'm going to lose it.
No, so you got to remember too, old school way I learned from the old timers. We used to land them on a chassis 140 foot up and land them on the first shot. Why? Because we learned from the old timers. Now you got these guys, quote unquote, coming out of training on simulators. They're sticking people on simulators. You need hands on. If I tell you to go dig a ditch, you better know what you're doing. Then if no one's told you as a kid, whether your pops, your grandpa, never showed you how to, pick up a shovel and use it. I'm dig a square hole. I need a square shovel, if you will, not a rounded shovel. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So you need the timers, and we're a thing of the past.
It does seem to be getting that way, right? Everything's going a little bit more automated, and with every passing year, the guys that do shit the old way, like, so I remember when I had my landscape company, right? It was a small landscape company, but I came up with big landscape companies when I was an employee, and I took what I learned there and I put it in my own company. And I remember we had a job where, the house was all rock in the planting beds. There was no mulch. And the homeowner wanted to remove all the rock and put mulch in. And so I told the guys, here's the way we're going to do it. I don't own any of that heavy equipment. And to keep costs down, we're not renting it. We're going to shovel the rock out in the wheelbarrows. Then we're going to pick the wheelbarrows up and dump them into a dumpster. And we're going to do that for the next 14 hours.
Right.
And they were just like, we're going to do fucking what? I'm like, we're going to move this. And they're like, there's no way we're going to get it done. I'm like, watch us get it done. And we got that shit done. And they're like, how the hell did you do this your whole career? I'm like, that's how we started out. Fuck yeah.
It's called assholes and elbows. Old school. Assholes and elbows. That's all I want to see.
Exactly. We used to have to shave the sod out with a shovel. We didn't have a sod cutter. We used to have to make ramps up to the trailer and up onto the dump truck with the sideboards of the truck and run up there with the goddamn wheelbarrows.
And you better know how to flip that son of a bitch and let it go.
Yeah, exactly. Otherwise, you're going to be wearing every fucking inch of it.
That's right.
And that's the thing with the blue collar trades is, I know plumbers the same way. I know electricians the same way. I'm talking to you about crane operating. That whole, nobody could ever show me how to put in a brick patio. Nobody could ever show me on a video or in a textbook how to sod a yard. You just had to go do it. And like we were talking about earlier. And so when you do it over and over and over again, and here's another thing. I know you'll understand this as well. The same goes for any of the younger people listening to this episode. The same goes with music. Back in the day, you made music by playing instruments, and you got better by playing over and over and over again. Now it's all done with a machine, and it sounds great. Don't get me wrong, you're making good music, but you're not creating music. You're not picking up a guitar and playing a guitar, sitting down at a drum set and drumming. Every car now comes with the fucking thing on the dashboard that shuts your engine off when you're at a stoplight, or it's got 17 fucking computers in the dashboard that can monitor every aspect of the car. I used to have to turn the fucking brights on with my left foot because it was on the floor, and my dad used to open up them little triangle windows to give me fresh air, quote unquote, on a goddamn road trip.
That's if you were good, he'd give you fresh air.
Usually the car was just filled with smoke.
Right? Yeah, no, dads were tough back then. It's for a good reason.
Exactly. And that's something else that I noticed that you get into. I've noticed it when you were working, and now obviously a little bit more now you're not working. You're really into your cars. You like going to car shows, and you like those old school cars.
Yes, sir. I just bought a 54 Bel Air.
Man, how many collectors you got?
So I got a 54 Bel Air I just bought, and I got a 64 second owned Impala.
Shut up.
Yeah.
Second owner.
Second owner on the Impala.
God damn, that's a classic car right there.
Yeah. It's
I wish I still had my grandfather's 58 Edsel that he had in the garage when I was a little kid.
Yeah, I think we all say that. Man, I wish we could have had Grandpa's car, my dad's car back then.
So, do you miss not being on the docks now?
I don't miss the managers, quote unquote, but I miss the friends. I miss working, but I miss the friends and the bullshitting, you know?
I got one of them silly questions that I'm sure you've heard a million times. I just don't know the answer to it. And I'm going to sound like a little kid here, but how do you go? Do you got to come all the way down to go to the bathroom?
No, we have, yes, if you got to do number two. If you got to do number two, you got to call a timeout and they'll give you a ride to the nearest facility. But if you go number one, they have what they call, back in the day, we used to just bring up Ziploc bags or a water bottle, right?
Okay.
Our water that we drank. But now they got these urinals that women and men could use. They open up to the shape of what's the word I want to use? Like a big Ziploc, if you will.
Okay.
And they have like this powder that's going to turn into like a diaper form, and then you take it down at the end of your shift.
Gotcha. Yeah, I figured
Hey, so,
technology advanced with that too.
Yes, exactly. Hey, if you don't mind, who else do you follow that's a crane operator? Is that Stanley in Port of Los Angeles?
I can't remember his name. He's a Hispanic gentleman. Stan?
Yes.
Yeah, Stanimal.
Yes. He works in the next port over from where I was at. I knew his dad, actually. I didn't know him, but I met him once.
Okay. Yeah, see, that's what I find accounts that strike my interest, because it doesn't all have to be politics. It doesn't all have to be screaming and yelling. I follow people that do homesteading. I follow guys that are crane operators. I follow a slew of people that have Tourette syndrome because I find their lives fascinating, like how they function and things like that. And so that's why
I think we follow the same people then.
Yeah, it's just, here's the thing. Life is interesting. And I don't want to talk to everybody that's just into the same shit as me. I want to talk to people that are in different walks of life and different jobs. And I see you. I always wanted to talk to you about the supply chain, but I never wanted to have you on the podcast for fear of getting you in trouble with your employer.
Well, if that's a good point. I used to go live. I don't know if you ever see me live operating a crane back in the day. And they were, hey, the liability, please stay off of that. And I did for a while, but I'm so what do you want to say? Militant,
Right.
And it's a double-edged sword. The union had our back for a minute, and then they said, yeah, you know what, we don't need any bad publicity, you killing somebody while it's live. And I understood that. So, and look at Stanley, him too, so we all have an understanding. We just need to get off of that live.
Yeah. And you know what, just sometimes you got to listen to the man and just follow the rules, do your job.
Correct.
But you can still make content that talks about your job. You can still make content that shows what you do and educates people out there. And that's, a lot of people need educating on how we get our stuff. They just think this stuff magically appears on the shelves, that there isn't an absolute insanely long list of people that have to handle their products before it winds up at their local Target or Walmart.
That's true. And hopefully, you put your podcast and you get a lot of hits and a lot of views, because then it will open the eyes to a lot of people if they really paid attention. And, I come from my dad was a cement finisher, union cement finisher. People don't like unions, and I was in that same union for 40 years. And do we get paid well? Absolutely. Do we lose people? Absolutely. To job, to death on the job. Do we lose limbs? Absolutely. And people don't see that, what it takes. Look at truck driving. There's a death, probably 5 deaths a year, a day, truck driving. People don't realize that. They just think, they're just hauling a container or a trailer to the store. How hard is that? It's hard.
I tell you what people really don't understand. They don't understand when they're on a highway to not just jerk over into the next lane right in front of a truck. You need to leave some distance, people. If you're listening to this podcast, leave some goddamn distance, or you're going to wind up having a Kenworth up your ass.
Exactly. I drove from California to Oregon. I got a dash cam. I could rewind that and show you how many, I don't want to say idiots, how many, we'll call them ding dongs, do exactly what you just said,
Now, another reason why I really like your content is because, so I dig the supply chain aspect. I dig the port work aspect. I dig the cars that you have on your videos. But two other reasons that I dig your content is your love for just life in general, but your food. My God, dude, you can cook some food. My God.
I take the easy way out, Tom. It's very simple, basic food I like to make. And if you haven't noticed, I make a lot of it. When I do, I give it to friends and neighbors. It's just not for me. It's not for my kids. It's not for my wife. I give it a lot of food to people that I know that will love and enjoy it. I think I got that from my mom.
Now, were you adopted by a Hispanic family?
No, I was not. No, I like to say that people say you don't look Mexican, but I'm one of the lucky few. I'm a white Mexican.
Can I get an amen? I worked in landscaping for 26 years, and I got to know a lot of people from Michoacan, and I got to learn a little bit of the language, and I got to learn a lot of the culture. And then I take my kids down to Mexico for vacation, and I'm talking to the locals, and the one guy, I mean, we're off the plane 20 minutes, and the guy goes, bullshit, you're not American, you're Mexican. Because I'm in there, I'm orale, mijos, what's up? I'm talking to him like I talk to the guys on the cruise, and my kids are like,
people appreciate that,
Well, here's the thing, man. Those guys, you see me talk about immigration, and I'm not going to make this political. I'm just going to talk about my own personal experiences. When you spend 20 years working around Mexican immigrants and you realize how much they give a shit about their family, how much they give a shit about their faith, how much they give a shit about their community, and how they're just wanting to earn a buck and put a roof over their head, and you get to know these people. Yeah, these are the hardest working.
And you're forgetting hardworking.
That's what I was just going to say. They're the hardest working people I've ever met in my entire life, and the friendliest. Like, I'm their manager. I'm white. I'm an American, and yet they're calling me into the trailer every day. They're calling me into the trailer every day, and it's the same thing. This guy brings the propane. This guy brings the tortilla. Two guys bring two different types of protein. Somebody brings rice. They gather around. They have lunch, and they're just every day. Come on in. Oh, sit down. We're having some fucking tacos. Yes, let's go.
That's right. Hey, it's going to be better than any McDonald's Jack and a Crack you've ever tasted.
Trailer tacos were the best. Those boys taught me about trailer tacos, and they taught me how to sit comfortably in a wheelchair or a wheelbarrow when you're on a job site. And sitting in a wheelbarrow eating a taco is one of the best places you'll ever be in the world.
Hey, and a Modelo or a Corona?
Well, you like the beer. You like the beer. For me, I'm a little bit different. I like the mota a little bit too much, and so I don't like the beer. Now that you're retired, do you get to partake?
No, sir. It's a year and a half. I haven't had a drink, and 5 months that I stopped smoking weed.
Now, did you do this for a reason, or you're just trying to dry out, clean up? What's up?
Well, the drinking, honestly, it was getting pretty bad. We were doing it on the job, which I don't recommend anybody, boys and girls. Every trade does it. I'd be lying and you'd be lying if in your industry or in any industry they do not. And I'm just tell the truth. So between that and I'm retiring, I didn't want no headaches after this,
Amen, brother. Amen, brother. Well, I'm going to do enough on my end to keep us both in mota. I'm gonna make sure that I got.
God bless you, man. God bless you.
What do you got coming up, man? What are the projects you got coming up with retirement? You got this house in Oregon. What else you got?
So I just had this repainted.
Okay.
This escaping is going to be torn out by some raza, meaning Hispanic people. This is all going to be gone. This is all going to be black bark instead of this wood. This has been here over 15 years. It's time for it to go.
Okay.
So I got that coming up, and I got an AC unit coming in maybe this week sometime that I'm going to have to supervise and have, watch them put in. Tom, I was a mechanic for 8 years on the waterfront. So I worked on all kinds of machinery in my younger years when I first started. So like I said, we could wash toilets, push a computer key, be a mechanic, be a UTR driver. That'd be a truck driver on the docks, that is. And several different categories people don't know we could do on the waterfront. So I've been jack of all trades, master of none, if you will.
My friend, I can tell you this, as somebody who's written 2 books since he's retired. I retired in February of 2018 from
Oh, wow.
landscape. Say again?
I said, that's amazing.
Yeah, it was pretty. I was pretty fortunate to be able to retire. I was 45 when I retired. My wife retired me because of her career, and then I wrote 2 books in the intervening years. And I'm going to tell you something. I think you got a book about your time on the waterfront in you somewhere. If you're ever in the mood to write, you start writing. I think that you would have a pretty interesting life tale to tell.
Hell, Tom, if I knew how to read, I'd write a book, but I don't know. I barely know how to read.
I got you, boss. I got you. Well, if you ever want to do it, you let me know, man. I'll ghostwrite for you. I mean, hell, all them rich guys got ghostwriters, right?
You're funny. No, you know what? I could get a few old timers, and then I think their stories are more interesting than mine. I love what's the word I want to use? I love hanging around the old timers, and I still do. I'm pretty tight knit with guys that show me how to operate the cranes. I still hang out with them, if you will, after our retirement. I still see them, play golf with them.
So, you have any other projects that you're going to be doing besides this house? Anything on the horizon?
No, sir. Just want to put this air conditioning in here in the next week, or I supervise them doing it, and then I'm done working and spending money, if you will.
Amen. Amen. Now you got to sit on that shit, right?
That's right. Hey, no, I don't know about sit on that. I like going places. I've been as far as away to Sweden, to Turks and Caicos, to Costa Rica, you name it. We've been everywhere.
Nice. Nice. Well, you busted your ass. You should enjoy your life the way you want.
Likewise. Yeah, I'm sure you did too, brother.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Listen, man, I thank you for doing this because I enjoy what you do. Please don't stop making content because I love your content.
Thank you, man, and thank you for chiming in, and thank you for inviting me to this Zoom. This is I've never done a Zoom. I don't know how it was already downloaded on my phone, but I'm glad I was able to figure this technology out.
Amen. And if you're ever in Chicago, you let me know.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate it. Likewise, if you're ever in LA.
Yes,
you, homie.
indeed. Indeed. If I'm ever out that way, I'll let you know, boss.
And I'll cook you a nice homemade Mexican meal.
The only thing I can say to that is orale.
Orale, and don't forget, bring your wife.
Oh, absolutely, brother. You got it, man.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you. You have a good one, man.
Gosh, you too.